Well, thank you so much for introducing me, Darren. Again, my name is Hao-yi and I am the dietitian here. As Darren mentioned, I primarily work with folks on nutrition, and I service our weight loss clinic. I also service our chronic disease programs. I work with athletes, those trying to become healthier, those managing other forms of chronic disease. And for today's topic, we went with hydration, which does seem like a bit of a basic, straightforward topic, but in my experience, a lot of individuals underestimate how much fluids they really need, or they certainly have some kind of ailment or health concern that could be mitigated or managed with some adequate or proper hydration. So I'm going to spend some time today talking about what hydration looks like, the benefits of it, the downsides to being dehydrated, as well as some ways to incorporate hydration into our life. Behind me you see my fancy dancy whiteboard, so I'll be using that today as well. And it's going to be a little bit of a very casual talk / lecture. I'll be scribbling up here, taking questions, and hopefully providing you some new information, or at least some things that'll be a nice review or a nice reminder. So we're going to start with the benefits first. So typically when we talk about hydration, a lot of folks think, they're going to be good for, keeping my joints healthy. That's certainly one aspect of it. But besides keeping our joints healthy, hydration can also help with other factors as well. It can help with temperature regulation. So if you are someone who works outside, for long periods of time, staying hydrated is going to be very, very important. It can also help with appetite regulation as well. So a lot of my clients in my weight loss clinic will sometimes find that they are a little bit more hungry than usual throughout the day. We also find that they don't drink enough water. So for some individuals, thirst can sometimes be mistaken for hunger, or certainly thirst can exacerbate current feelings of hunger. So by drinking more water and adding it into our diet, we can help eliminate that aspect and help with making hunger a little bit easier because we're taking that thirst factor out of the equation. Besides appetite regulation, if you are an athlete or someone who's looking to be a bit more physically active, making sure we stay hydrated is also going to be very important for our physical, but also our mental focus as well. So if you're an athlete, of course, you want to make sure you're staying hydrated in order to move well, function well. It's very important for technical skill. Likewise, if you are someone who maybe, you're not an athlete, but perhaps you're trying to study for something, you're trying to concentrate on something, perhaps your job or whatever you're doing is very mentally demanding, hydration is going to be really important as well for mental focus. So that's going to be key for that aspect too. Finally, hydration can also help with our bowel and gut health. So if you're someone who struggles with constipation or diarrhea, or if you have some kind of IBS, IBE, Crohn's, something where your gut health is maybe a little bit out of whack or not where it should be, hydration is going to be very important for maintaining a healthy bowel movements, and addressing those diseases. Additionally, if you're someone who's trying to increase your fiber intake, fiber is only going to work as good as the water you give it. So if you're loading up the fiber, but you're not getting enough water, then you're really not doing your body the proper service it deserves. So that's why water is so important for a bowel health standpoint as well. So as we have just talked about, water is going to be very important for a variety of our health conditions, ranging from keeping our joints healthy, temperature regulation, managing our appetite, supporting our physical and mental health, as well as supporting our bowel health as well. Now, in terms of downsides, I'm going to switch over to my red marker here. You can imagine that being dehydrated will lead to basically the opposite of all of these factors. A lot of folks find that when they are dehydrated, typically what happens is that they have decreased focus. They often have more fatigue. Sometimes they find that their joint pain is aggravated. And then we also find as well that they feel very sluggish as well. So dehydration is very important for managing not only these health conditions, but also preventing these common ailments. I've had a number of clients and athletes over the years where when we actually up their water intake and actually get them where they're at, they often report better focus, better mood is a really big one, better energy levels. Some clients who are struggling with dizziness or lightheadedness, when they up their water intake, they often find better success. Now, I've gone over the benefits and downsides to hydration and dehydration accordingly, and I've made allusions to, increasing your water intake or getting enough. And it's a really common golden question I get is, how much fluids do I actually need in a day? So typically for the amount of fluids that we need, I'll typically recommend a standard of, 6 to 8 cups of fluid, or around 1.5 liters to 2 liters of fluid in a day. So I'll write that here just so that you guys can refer to this. So about 1.5 to 2 liters of fluid a day, which works out to about 6 to 8, cups of fluid. I'm just going to draw a little bit of fluid here. As you can see, I'm a dietitian, not an artist, so you'll have to forgive my shoddy writing / my shoddy artwork, but I think it's part of the charm of today. So hopefully as I continue with these talks, the drawings will get better, but I can make no promises there. But anyways, I'll typically recommend, again, a standard about 1.5 liters to 2 liters of fluid a day, or about 6 to 8 cups of fluid. Now, this isn't a hard and fast rule. One thing I really want to stress, and this will be a prevailing topic or theme I'll bring up throughout my future sessions, is that all of this is a starting point. You don't have to have 6 to 8 cups of fluid in a day. It is just the recommendation that is going to be best for most people, but it's certainly not a one size fits all. So what I mean by that is that if you are someone who is older, if you're someone who is more physically active, if you're someone, say, who has concerns with bowel health, or if you're someone who sweats a lot, you'll probably need a lot more fluid than what's listed here. I've had some clients where their normal fluid intake in a day, in order to feel rejuvenated, to have proper bowel movements, to feel like they can function at their best physical and mental capacity, they need anywhere between 3 liters, 4 liters. I have some clients who drink upwards to 5, especially if they work a lot in construction. They are very heavy sweaters. So again, 1.5 to 2 liters or 6 to 8 cups of fluid in a day is going to be the common starting recommendation. However, it's certainly not the one size fits all. So again, 1.5 to 2 is going to be good, but please keep in mind that if you are older, you sweat a lot, you're very active, you may need more fluid. On the flip side, if you're someone who perhaps have concerns with fluid retention, maybe you have some edema or swelling, or you have some kind of kidney concern, then your doctor may tell you to actually reduce the amount of fluid you need. So I'm giving you examples of both ends of the spectrum to really illustrate my point that, again, this is a fantastic starting point, but again, it is just a starting point. You may need to drink more or potentially even less, depending on what your lifestyle looks like and what sort of condition you have. So that's something I always stress with all my clients. I'll always go over starting points, but from there, you'll tailor it based on what your needs and requirements are. Now, whenever we talk about hydration, often I get folks asking me about sport drinks and electrolytes as well. So in most cases, I'll typically recommend choosing water as your first and primary fluid of choice. It's just the easiest for the body to, have. It's very plain, it's very simple, it's just water, right? However, there can be some benefits to adding electrolytes as well. So if you're not familiar with it, electrolytes are a type of mineral that not only help with maintaining our muscle and heart function, they also help with retaining fluid as well, or helping with hydration. So I'm going to signify electrolytes with this little E here and with a minus. And electrolytes can help with increasing hydration. They can help with muscle function. And they're also related to heart function as well. Now, there are different types of electrolytes or minerals, but the most common ones that are specific to hydration are going to be sodium, which I'll represent with our little Na, or salt. They're going to be magnesium, and then potassium. Again?
P something?
P something. No, that should be a K.
Okay.
There we go. Now, in most cases, you can typically get this through foods. Bananas, for example, are a great source of potassium. Your dark leafy greens, great source of magnesium. Salt will naturally occur in some products, like dairy products, for example, or added in during the cooking process. So for most individuals, they're able to get electrolytes through their food itself. However, if you are someone who is a heavy sweater, or if you're someone who is working outside in hot weather for an extended period of time, perhaps you're someone struggling with a stomach illness, so you're having diarrhea or upset stomach or vomiting, then electrolytes can help with being more aggressive in your hydration and help with maintaining your overall fluid balance in your body, which in that case you can consider an electrolyte drink. So very common ones that I've come across are going to be your Gatorade, Powerade, Pedialyte, Hydrolyte. These are all pre-made electrolyte drinks you can utilize if you fall into one of the aforementioned categories I mentioned earlier. So if you're someone who is highly active, you're a heavy sweater, or you're experiencing some kind of diarrhea or vomiting. Now, one thing I should preface is that these are just some products I've come across. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I don't have any financial disclosures, and I probably should have done it at the beginning. But the Pedialyte, the Hydrolyte, the Gatorade, those are just common commercial products you come across that can help provide the electrolytes you're looking for if you do fall into these categories. However, at the end of the day, they are certainly not mandatory by any means. Again, I typically recommend water as the first beverage of choice. Again, aiming for about 1.5 liters to 2 liters in a day, or 6 to 8 cups. If you want to visualize that, I actually have my handy dandy water bottle right here. It's a little bit bigger on the larger side. However, this is going to be approximately 2 liters throughout the entire day. So you don't need to, slam or chug this in under 5 minutes or an hour. Again, this is going to be every hour or two you might sip out of this. And I really like this water bottle because it does come with markings. So I'm actually going to come up just a little bit closer to the camera here. You can see here that this water bottle I have, it has markings just to help me keep track of how much water I've drunken. It also comes with times as well. Now, you don't have to get a water bottle like this. Just get something that's easy to carry around, something that's accessible. Accessibility is a really big part to hydration. If something is accessible and right in front of you, you're more likely to partake in it. So having a water bottle on your desk, no matter what shape and form, whatever works best for you. I just like this because some of my clients are very visually inclined. So having these markings or having these reminders can be very helpful for them. And just drinking on that throughout the day is going to be the most beneficial. Again, you don't have to finish your 2 liters in one go. Please spread it out. And if you're someone who is not used to drinking that much water, you don't have to go to 2 liters right away. One big part of making any kind of healthy behavior change is to do it gradually, realistically, and reasonably. So if you know for a fact that you have around 3-4 cups of water in a day, you don't have to go to 8 right away. Maybe going to 6 first is more of a reasonable change. So again, everyone has to start somewhere. It doesn't have to be a drastic change. So if going up to 6 cups is a little bit more realistic, then please start with that first. Any change, no matter how big or small, is going to be better than no change at all. So in summary, water is going to be very important for managing our joint health, our temperature, helping with appetite regulation, our physical and mental health, bowel health. Not getting enough water can have implications on our focus, our fatigue, feeling sluggish mentally, joint pain. It can also impact our bowel movements as well. You certainly can consider electrolytes, so things like magnesium, salt, and potassium, but as long as you're having a balanced diet, you're likely to get those electrolytes anyways. However, if you're very active, you're a heavy sweater, you're experiencing some diarrhea or vomiting, or if you're even on the older side or a combination of these factors, then you can certainly consider one of those electrolyte drinks. So, Gatorade, Pedialyte, Hydrolyte, Powerade, whatever you feel is most appropriate for you based on flavor. Outside of that, about 1.5 liters to 2 liters in a day, or 6 to 8 cups, is going to be an excellent starting point. I believe that takes us to the 15-minute mark there. So I understand that we have some questions. So I'll take some questions there. If there's something that I've missed, I can certainly clarify and expand on that as well.
For sure. We've got one here. Does coffee count?
Good. Really, really good question. So coffee does count up to a certain point. So let me grab my green marker here. Negative fluid balance or become dehydrated. However, that's not the case within reason. Most of my clients, if you consume around 1 to 2 cups of coffee in a day, that is okay, because ultimately the amount of caffeine you get from 1 to 2 cups of coffee isn't going to be enough to cause, a negative fluid loss. This will actually count towards your hydration.
Oh, just a second here. We got the sound gone. We're just double checking. Can people hear our audio right now? Just double checking. Can people hear our audio? Give us a thumbs up. Let us know if you can hear us. We are doing okay. Can it continue on here? Yes, you can hear us. Okay, we're good. We can hear us. Okay, so we're good to go. So what about food sources for hydration? Does watermelon, cucumbers, do you factor those into how much water you're drinking, or is that starting to split the hairs a little bit too much?
That's a really great question. I'm really happy that was brought up. So technically, yes. Items like your melons, things like yogurts, anything with a lot of moisture to it would actually count towards your fluid intake. However, because there's so much variability with all those different food items, we tend not to worry too much about how much fluid is in it. As you kind of use the term splitting our hairs, we try not to get too split over that factor. The one exception to that rule is if I have someone on a very severe fluid restriction, so maybe they have a lot of swelling, they have a kidney concern, and the doctor instructed them to limit their fluids. In that case, we would be a little bit more, specific with how much fluid they're ingesting, and we would include food in that factor. However, outside of that, then we wouldn't worry too much about food being a source of fluids. From just a general hydration standpoint, fruit can help contribute to your hydration intake. That's certainly a very valid thing to consider. But at the end of the day, typically we would look at fluids in its pure form. So a cup of water would be what we would consider.
You've talked about a little bit about sports drinks. Can you make your own, like for example, like a diluted orange juice or something like that? Or are some of those like good alternatives to off-the-shelf sports drinks?
Yeah. So if you're someone who doesn't like the taste of your standard sport drinks because of the taste, and it's a very common concern or complaint I hear from athletes where, the type of drink they have, it's too sweet, it's got a weird aftertaste. It tastes too blue is what I had one athlete tell me, which I found very funny. It was too blue. You can absolutely make your own. So a sport drink really is composed of 3 different factors or 3 different ingredients. And I'm going to use my orange marker here. So a sport drink is composed of a carbohydrate. So I'll write CHO for carbohydrate. It has fluids. And it has your electrolytes. Now, if we break it down to these 3 components, we can absolutely make our own sport drink. So for carbs, we could simply use, let's say, 250 mils of juice of your flavor that you like. Orange or apple tend to be the most popular choice. For fluids, I would simply add a cup of water, so 250 mils of water. And for electrolytes, if we go to our little list right here, we can see salt is one of the electrolytes for hydration, and salt's probably one of the biggest ones, which in that case, we can simply add a pinch of salt, mix it all together, and you've made yourself your own sport drink. And because you're making it yourself, you can adjust the ratios depending on your preferences, what flavor you like. So I've had some clients where they will forego the juice. Instead, they'll use lemon juice, they'll add a little bit of honey, add some water, or they'll use coconut water as well. They'll use a pinch of salt. And then they have their own lemon honey sport drink. They'll put in the fridge to chill, and they're going out for a run on a hot day. Then they have a perfect cool lemony beverage to help cool them off, but also help with hydrating them as well. So definitely you can create your own sport drink at home, again, just by focusing on these 3 different core components, which is going to be your carbohydrate, your fluids, and your electrolytes. So really, really good question.
You mentioned cool. Is temperature a factor in how your body absorbs the hydration or the water or whatever you're drinking?
Oh, really, really good question as well. So in terms of absorption, it doesn't make a really big difference. I find temperature plays a bigger role in how well a person can actually drink the fluid in terms of adherence, but also in terms of temperature regulation as well. So, for example, just recently I did a presentation for a construction company, and they were concerned about hydration for the workers working in this wonderful Winnipeg summer, which is very hot. So one of the recommendations I gave is that if you are able to have your fluids cold, it can help with temperature regulation when you are working outside or you're in a very hot environment. So the temperature of the fluid can make a difference there. In terms of how much you drink, well, some folks prefer to have their beverages hot, and they actually drink more fluid because of it. Because when they drink cold fluids, it makes their stomach upset, they feel uncomfortable, they just don't like it. I have other clients on the flip side where if their beverage is not cold, they won't drink it, they don't like it. I've had one client where they went from drinking around like 3 cups of fluid up to 8. So from 3 cups to 8 cups, because we focus on getting chilled water or cold drinks. And that really helped with increasing their intake because they just did not like hot beverages. They couldn't stand it. So we went more so the cold route, and they actually ended up drinking more because the fluid was more attractive or palatable because of the temperature difference. So while there may not be a specific biological difference, there's certainly an argument to be made for how a person would like to drink based on the temperature of their fluid.
Fantastic. If there's any more questions out there, please just send them out. We can read them out and fire them off here to Howie while we've got them available.
I'm going to hydrate myself.
There we go. I take the opportunity. And awesome. And if you do not have any other follow-up questions, or if you have questions again later on, you can forward them off to our Instagram account. We'll make sure to forward those off. General questions, please. And we can help do that. But thank you very much for joining us for our first Community Nutrition Series talk here. And check out our YouTube account as well to see this video after the fact or refer to it again. Have a fantastic afternoon, everybody.
Thanks so much, everyone.